I think you're sleepy. Come back in an hour. Need sleepy. Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
Good morning. And we're coming to you live. Oh, yeah, that's the line. We're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Good morning. I said it out of order. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located in beautiful St. Simons Island, Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. I know you got to know how to spell all those words, but you can do it. You can do it. www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Don't forget, you're heading south for the winter. It's literally 15 minutes out your way off of I-95. That includes stopping for a couple of lights. But, hey, you want to live dangerously, take some chances and risks? Just run the red lights, and you'll get there quicker. And don't forget, mention this show, and you'll get a free cannoli with your meal. What else can we give you? Today's show is being brought to you in part by Fight TV. Check out this show on Fight TV, plus all the other combat sports. And here's a good one for you. We'll let you download the Fight TV app so you can watch the show on your handheld for free. All you got to do is go to www.fighttv, that's FITE.tv/Billy C. That's it. And you download the app for free, and you're in. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by FireFan. Why do I always F that up? FireFan.com. It's the newest, latest, and greatest fantasy game. Check it out. It's nothing like you've played before, and we got you hooked up with that too if you use the Billy C Boxing code. That's right. Just go to firefan.com and enter Billy C Boxing as the code, and you'll get the game for free. You'll be able to play it forever for free and win money without laying out a penny. Come on. We can't give you a better deal than that than just send you checks. But you know how people make promises about that and it don't happen. So I can't make that promise. But I will tell you this. If you go to firefan.com and use the code BillyCBoxing, you will get to play the game for free and win money. Hey, you want to make life easy? Just go to our website, www.billycboxing. I don't even think you need to do that anymore. Just go to BillyCBoxing.com and go to the FireFan banner, which is on the left-hand side, and click it. It'll automatically be all set for you to rock and roll. And today's show is being brought to us in part by Tom Molina. The fuck did I drink today? I don't know. It must have been in the eggnog. My book, Tom Molino. Not Tom. It's not being brought to you by Tom Molino. It's being brought to you by my book, Tom Molino, From Bondage, The Baddest Man on the Planet. It's available right now where all good books are sold, and you can get a copy of it right now by going to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Now, if you notice, she's a folds. It fits a perfect in the stocking, so it's a great Christmas gift. I think you should buy at least a half a dozen of them and give them out to the people you care for the most. And if you need more, get more. And looking, if you want a signed copy, and look at here. If you want to get a signed copy, just go to our website, www.billycboxing.com, and go to the book club section. Anyway, phew. Let's see. What we doing today? Oh, yeah. Today we're going to open up the phone lines and get your thoughts for Fan-Driven Thursday, because we're not doing a show tomorrow. I think Anthony Joshua's fighting this weekend, and I think that AJ is exactly what boxing needs. He's got some quotes and stuff I'm going to get to in a little bit, but it's exactly what boxing needs. And speaking of boxing needing things, boxing needs guys that are willing to fight and fight affordably. I don't know if you've heard this, but it looks like Danny Jacobs, if you will, has punked out of the Triple G fight. Now, the reason why I say this, it's not official, But the reason why I say Daniel Jacobs has punked out of the Triple G fight is he wouldn't accept the $1.9 million offer to fight Triple G from Triple G's promoter. And the result of that is it's going to purse bid. And the minimum purse bid is $400,000. It's $400,000 is the minimum purse bid for the WBA title, the regular title that Daniel Jacobs holds. And I'll tell you right now that there's no way that he will fight for that kind of money should somebody just lowball it and win it. He'll give up that title, and they'll say that Triple G didn't want to fight him or some bullshit like that. Daniel Jacobs, you're a punk. You're a fraud. You and Deontay Wilder are the two biggest frauds in boxing today based on you pounding your fucking chest like you're badasses, and none of you have fought anybody good. Neither one of you, especially Deontay Wilder. The only guy that Daniel Jacobs fought that was a quality fighter, he got knocked out against. So, I mean, come on. Joining me right now, he's got to save me, is New Jersey Boxing Hall of Famer. He's a Guinness Book of World Record holder. He can throw a pizza across the ocean. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. And he's an actor, too, by the way. Please welcome Sal Rocky Senicola. What's up, Sal?
Hey, Billy C. Good morning. How are you, buddy?
Not too bad.
I know. You got to calm down. I'm worried about you.
I'm just all jacked up.
Fights, the whole mechanics, and minutia is a lot to endure. I know, but we gotta rise up to the above the pollution of the game and look for the better things to come.
Hey, you know what's coming tonight for me? 2 feet of fucking snow. That's what's coming. They're going.
I'll tell you what.
They go like this. The weather guy says, "Get ready. It may blow over, and we only may get like 6 to 8 inches, but there's a chance that we get up to 2 feet." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me, man."
Let me tell you, I would give a lot to come up there and shovel your driveway. I need some cold weather. I need some snow. This damn Yankee's boiling down south. It's still hot. It doesn't feel like Christmas. It's like 80 degrees, and I'm waiting for Rudolph to. I see a lot of deer. I don't see any reindeer, but there's a lot of deer on the island. But I'm gonna look for that red-nosed reindeer.
You know how deer? I'll get off topic for a minute, but deer. They seem a little skittish, right? Well, the deer.
They'll kill you in a heartbeat.
I'll tell you what. The deer up here in the Adirondacks, they're big, right? And sometimes
they got an attitude too. They got that New York mentality.
You're not kidding, because the other morning I put my dog out. Right, and I got a Rottweiler, and he's no super monster, but he weighs $140. I mean, he's a pretty big boy, and I open up the door and there's a deer standing there. Now, we're maybe 15 feet. Me and my dog are maybe 15 feet from this deer, and I'm looking at this deer. And I'm saying to myself, this don't look like a small deer. Yeah, it's not like a small deer. I'm looking at him eye to eye, and it wasn't even a buck or anything. And this deer looks at me like, "What the fuck you looking at, pal?" I'm like, Jesus. Me and the dog, we just kind of like turned around and, keeping our backs with facing the deer. I'm like, what happened? When did deer become badasses? I thought they were frail and scaredy cats, holy shit. But anyway. Did you hear this? Daniel Jacobs was offered, I believe, $1.9 million to fight Triple G, and they turned it down. And he's been dragging his feet. And, now the WB announced that in a couple of weeks there's going to be a purse bid for that fight. They're ordering the fight. Now, I know it's hard to follow, Sal, but Daniel Jacobs has the regular old WBA world middleweight title. Triple G happens to have the WBA middleweight super title, or however order they say. So they're ordering this fight to happen because they claim that they're trying to unify their own friggin' titles. And Daniel Jacobs has already turned down the $1.9 million from K2, and now it's going to purse bid. And like I said in the beginning of the show, the minimum bid for this fight is $400,000. All right, so and these purse bids a lot of times, they're sealed. So a promoter will go in and and try to lowball. And a lot of times what's happening today with purse bids is the promoters are hoping somebody else gets it so they don't have the burden of making all the money and laying out all the money. And by the way, the purse split here is 75% for Triple G, 25% for Daniel Jacobs. So the bottom line is he turns down almost $2 million to fight, and they would have even fought in Brooklyn too, by the way. Now it's going to go to purse bid. The bottom line, Sal, is he's punked out of this fight because there's no way they're going to accept anything less than $2 million. And they didn't want to. One of the stumbling blocks was the purse split that the WBA said they're not going to alter. And I'm looking for Daniel Jacobs to be, giving up his regular old middleweight title in the very near future and claim that, blame it on Triple G somehow. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts is he should have manned up and said, "Hey, 1.9 million. Let's get this Christmas gift, sign the contract, and I'll get ready to trade him. I don't need 18 months as I thought I did. I'll just train and get ready."
Yeah. Well, we also how the long training thing helped Billy Joe.
Well, the whole thing is this too. Maybe he thought more money would pay for those camps because 18 months is a lot of time away.
I know, especially with the entourage,
a lot of farm partners and food.
Yeah, I know. But Daniel Jacobs is a fraud. Just like,
you convinced me. You sold me on that, man.
Oh yeah. Well,
this guy should have jumped, looked for that pen, and signed that contract at 1.9 million. What else is his marketability is going to get? How much more do you think he can get?
I don't think he's worth it. I don't think he's shown. Listen, he's beaten up the guys that he's looked great against. Were non-issue fighters, and the only tough guy that he fought knocked him out. He did beat Kid Chocolate, Peter Quinlan, but I look at that fight as it was fixed because they were good friends, and we haven't heard from Kid Chocolate since. I don't think he wanted to really fight anymore and just looked for a soft place to lay down in that one. But, my other issue today is what a class act and Anthony Joshua is. And I know you're a big fan of him, too. And I think that he's really what we need in this sport today. I think we need more fighters that follow the AJ rules. And let me give you an example. They had their final quotes from the press conference yesterday. And Eric Molina said, "Knockout's the only way I'm going to win here. I'm not going to get it on points. I'm here to put him on the floor and take his belt," obviously referring to Anthony Joshua. He says, "Any heavyweight can knock out any other heavyweight, and I can knock out Joshua. I'm a hard-punching heavyweight, so I'm extremely confident. I'm unpredictable, and any man in this division can be KO'd on any night. To become champion, that's the ultimate goal, and I think I have what it takes to knock him out." To me, reading between the lines, and he said multiple times throughout, this is just a snippet of all the comments that he made, but he said multiple times throughout the press conference yesterday, Sal, that any heavyweight can knock out any other one on any given night. It sounds to me that that's what's been said to him, conveyed to him, and, he's trying to believe it himself. But with so much saying that he's so confident and that any heavyweight can knock out any other heavyweight on any given night, as many times as he said it during the press conference, gives me reason to believe he is extremely doubting himself, and he's trying to convince himself he's got a shot at this fight. How do you take it?
Well, that's exactly how I read it. I mean, that's one of my favorite sayings. Any fighter can be beaten on any given night. You never know. You don't know what's going on, the mechanics inside the mind, inside the heart, inside what's going on, and as styles make fights. You hear me? Predictability. You look at the variables that we consider when we predict how a fight should go, is all in good, and a lot of times can be consistent with the outcome. However, those variables are the unknown entities that definitely could surprise any upset at any given time. But I think his only way is going to be probably putting Joshua down on the canvas and knocking him out, because I think Anthony Joshua is becoming a more complete fighter with each fight he experiences. He's got some power, he's got some boxing ability, he can slip some punches, he's got some defense. So that's why I'm excited about Anthony Joshua. And he also comes in to fight, and he comes into shape, and he's not afraid of anybody. So I like Joshua in this fight. I think he's gonna be able to overcome anything that we're gonna see from his opponent. But I think he's gonna. He feels that he is trying to give himself that false confidence when he goes in a ring against Joshua.
I wish you would pay attention to this show instead of talking about breakfast pizzas in the chat room.
Let me tell you, that's what threw me all off. Coach told me
I know
he's having a breakfast
you're not
pizza.
listening to me. You're not listening to me.
You're not my breakfast pizza. Now he's talking about. Forget about it. I put it with tomatoes, bacon, the whole thing.
Listen. The bottom line is
I want to talk about boxing now.
Yeah, you're supposed to be paying. Chat room. You're supposed to be paying attention to the softballs I'm throwing at you, and I look over and you and Coach is swapping pizza recipes in the chat room.
He's giving me a recipe. I'm going to come and make it right now.
Unbelievable. Anyway, Anthony Joshua says Eric's coming here to win, and he's got a goal set in his sights and his dream to fulfill. I'm going to shatter his dreams and keep my title. He gave Wilder a real test, rocked him and boxed him through the fight with an injury. So he's got the ability, he's got power, and he's got heart. I don't disrespect Eric, but I don't play games. I come to dominate. I don't care how long the fight goes, whether it's 1 or 12 rounds. I just need to dismantle my opponent. And what I love about this kid is exactly what you said. He's a guy that is seemingly very grounded, and he just wants to get better and better as time goes on, and I think he is. And the Deontay Wilder mentionings all the time, especially now, is Deontay Wilder is going to be a guest analyst for this fight. I'm dreading having to listen to the bullshit that's going to come out of Deontay Wilder's mouth. Deontay Wilder, as a human being, is a great guy, and some of the things that he boxes for and the reasons and his family and stuff like that are all good, and I admire him. But with that said, when I take my personal feelings for him as a human being out of the mix, and I look at him as a boxer, we've seen one good performance from Deontay Wilder in terms of demonstrating what he can do aside from just knocking fighters out, and that was his fight where he displayed some boxing ability when he fought Berman Stavern and won the title. That's the only fight that he looked good in terms of being well-rounded. We also gave him a lot of credit for beating Stavern, but since then we realized that Stavern was a fraud in himself. The bottom line is Deontay Wilder is a fraud. He has no chance of beating any of the top heavyweights, including Anthony Joshua, and it's going to be interesting to see what bullshit comes out of his mouth on Saturday night. But in any event, we will be looking forward to that because Anthony Joshua, make no mistake, Sal, Anthony Joshua is in the driver's seat for the heavyweight division. I don't care who else holds titles in the division. Anthony Joshua is the man. Do you agree with that?
I agree. This guy's the man. We think maybe that the heavyweight division right now is a little soft, a little stale, a little this and that. But no, Anthony Joshua is a rising star. He's going to be a household name. He's on a path to greatness if he keeps up this. If he keeps his head straight and keeps into the game as he appears he is doing so. He appears to be a gentleman inside and outside the ring. I think the media is going to be shining on this guy for a good while to come. And as long as he is not afraid to face anybody that he wants to step in a ring with, and it doesn't seem like he is, this guy's going to have a great career. He's already on a pathway.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, seeing how he takes care of business this weekend, I think will really put it in focus. And speaking of putting in focus, I got some emails I want to read, and we're going to open up the phone lines. But first, I want to get some other sports news out of the way. In the NBA last night, the Hornets beat the Pistons 87-77. Kemba Walker had 25 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists to lead the Hornets in that one. The Celtics really beat up on the Orlando Magic, 117-87. Avery Bradley, 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Nets, they won a game. I'm shocked. 116-111 over the Nuggets. Brook Lopez, 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Hawks beat the Heat, 103-95. Dwight Howard, 23 points, 17 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Bucks beat the Trailblazers, 115-107. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 15 points, 12 rounds, and 11 assists for his triple-double. The Rockets topped the Lakers 134-95. Talk about a beating. James Harden, 25.6 rebounds, 8 assists to lead the Houston Rockets. Cavaliers behind LeBron 126-94 over the Knickerbockers. 25.6 rebounds, 7 assists for LeBron. The Kings topped the Mavericks 120-89. DeMarcus Cousins, 24 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists. The Pacers beat the Suns 109-94. Paul George had 25 points, 13 rebounds, and an assist to lead the Pacers. And the Warriors beat the Clippers 115-98. Draymond Green, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. In the NHL, there was a couple of games. The Wild beat the Maple Leafs 3-2. The Capitals needed overtime to top the Bruins 4-3. The Ducks beat the Hurricanes in a shootout 6-5. And the Senators topped the Sharks 4-2. And in some baseball news, this could be right up your alley, Sal.
Yankees.
The Yankees.
Yankees are trading big.
Well, they re-signed Arnold Diaz Chapman for a 5-year, $86 million contract. And the word out on the street right now is that a lot of people feel that the Yankees are going to regret giving this guy this kind of money. And I don't understand why. I mean, with the way the prices are for superstars today, a 5-year deal for $86 million. I realize that he's not playing every day. Well, he may, and he's. I realize that it's not like an everyday player, a pitcher, especially a guy like Chapman. Although he probably will get in most games, but 5-year over $86 million. Check out this stat. Chapman, since his first season in the major leagues, which was 2010, has pitched. Are you ready for this? 2,000. He's pitched 2,241 pitches at 100 miles an hour or more, which is more than the next 7 pitchers on the list combined, Sal. The next guy in line has 536 pitches over that time period at 100 miles or more an hour. The question I have for the 5-year, $86 million isn't whether he's worth it or not. Throwing that hard, that much, will his arm hold up for 5 more years? That's the question. I know he's young, but this is a hard thrower. Guys that have longevity in the sport that start out throwing high heat.
Knuckleballs.
I mean, but what happens is they change. They become more of a complete pitcher. Like Ryan, he learned towards the end of his career that he had to throw other stuff. A good one to look at now, currently, for fans that are watching baseball now, is Bartolo Colon. Bartolo Colon was a nothing but heat pitcher when he came out 100 years ago with the Baltimore Orioles, and now he throws meatballs. It's location, location, location. So that's going to be the question: does Chapman become a well-rounded pitcher, or does he just fizzle out after he loses the ability to throw 100+ miles an hour every time? So interesting to see what takes place there. But I like the signing, Sal.
I like the signing, and I want to see your face right now because I'm going to make an analogy, and an analogy is this: if you buy that brand new BMW, and all of a sudden it has 50,000 miles on it, how are you going to treat it the next 50 or 100? So that's going to be the analogy with the Chapman.
Well, let me ask you this, Captain. How did the 50,000 miles get on that BMW to begin with? Was it from you driving the shit out of it? Were you babying it? Did you give it to your girlfriend? I mean, you gotta give us. We need more information about that analogy.
It went 0 to 60 in 5 seconds often.
All right, so if you beat the hell out of it for 50,000, you'll probably beat the hell out of it for the next 50,000. So and either that or you know what you could always do? Trade it in and get a new one. Just like just like they do.
You know what? We can make this analogy with ball players all day long.
Hey, listen, that's what they do in professional sports. When they have too much mileage on a player, they trade it in for a new one.
In for a younger one, a newer one, a better one.
Yeah, and sometimes they get unlimited mileage on some of those guys. But anyway, let's read some emails, and we'll try to open up the phone lines.
I want to know something else. Whatever happened, who was claimed to throw 105-mile-an-hour fastball that George Steinbrenner brought in from Japan. Whatever happened to Hideki Arabu?
I thought he.
And he used to call the whale.
Yeah, I thought he. He did.
He used to call him the whale.
Well, I'll tell you one thing: he wasn't eating.
Steinbrenner didn't pull punches. He would have been a hell of a boxing manager.
Let me tell you something. When he came over here and he ballooned up, it was from all the American food because he wasn't eating sushi. You know, but anyway,
I don't think he ever threw a 105-mile-an-hour ball.
He's I think coaching Papa Warner football now. You know, he left the sport of baseball. He's in football now. But anyway, let's read a couple of emails. This one's from my man Jesse. He says, "Hey Billy C, what's your thoughts on the crime today? Is there more today than in the past, or is it the same? Supposedly, crime statistics say that we live in a much safer world versus the 60s through the 90s, where crime was much higher than today. I don't know if I believe in that, Billy, because every time I turn on the TV, there's a bunch of murders and tragic things going on in the world. It's become so violent. How do you see it? And how does Sal see it, since you guys have lived a life longer than me?"
Thanks. We sure the heck have. We got some experience.
Well, back in the day,
Bill, you give your opinion on this, and I'll chime in when you're ready.
You know, did they have crime back in the day? No. Here's what I think. I do think in a way that there is less crime today than there was. But here's the difference. Some of the violent crimes today are a little over the top. I mean, when I was growing up as a kid, I never remember, a college kid going onto campus and mowing down fellow students. I mean, all of that started, I think, with the Columbine shootings back 20-something years ago. And I think what's happened is because of the media, it's created copycats in a sense. And the other thing you got to keep in mind is that a lot of horrific stuff that took place back in the day, by the time it reached the news, people had to read about it in the newspaper or wait for it to get to the news, and they could only talk about so much. Today, news is instant. Something happens, it's on the internet, it's you can see it on Twitter, you can see it online, and there's so much more room to report everything. So in a sense, yeah, things are horrific out there right now with the violence that you hear about and crazy stuff. But I think overall crime, I'm not talking about, killings and sick stuff that goes on today that maybe didn't as much in the years gone by. But I do think that less crime takes place today. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think quite the opposite. I think there's more crime. I think as this country becomes more and more populated, I'm in a little southeast Georgia community where maybe there's 15,000 residents versus where I was up in the same space for New Jersey, you'd have over 500,000. And so, of course, when you have 15,000, there's more that rises on a surface that you see. There's no transparency. Up there, you have a lot that's diluting the scenery, and you don't hear as much. But I think crime overall is on a rise. I think people have lost, a lot of people that have lost their moral compass have just gone the wayside. And one thing I remember, Bill, as a kid growing up, I can never, ever remember seeing, hearing, or reading about all the aggression and all the hate and all the shootings of police officers and killing of cops. Never in my life. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, I've only really recently have seen it in the news media the last 2 years or so, that is becoming part of the surface and part of our landscape. And I think it's a hate crime. I think it's bad. I think they should throw the book, right at it, because police officers are on the streets to help the citizens of the United States, to help their community, to help this. And when I hear they're going to be shooting cops or doing things like that, that is a no-no right off the get-go, and these guys should be stopped, punished, and severely taken care of.
Well,
I think the hate crimes issues, I think the other violent crime issues, yeah, it's definitely a different complexion than when I grew up.
Well, listen, I get it what you're saying about with the cops, but let's be real. There's some bad cops out there, and cops, need to, first of all, it's a double-edged sword because what a cop has to go through today to make an arrest or just to do something.
I mean, they got to file papers. They got to call home office. Hey, I'm trailing this car. I got to do this.
I know.
It's not like, hey, let's go get him. Do it. We're Dick Tracy.
But when you got guys that are being filmed shooting potential perpetrators in the back and then throwing a gun down and getting them on tape saying, oh yeah, well, he's got his gun and somebody else is recording him doing it all. It doesn't paint a pretty picture. And with the way that they all try to advance and stuff like that. So listen, I'm not going to jump on a wagon that says all cops are good, because they're not. There's a lot of scumbag cops out there that I can't stand, but it's unfortunate that they've become targeted. And I will say this, the crime in small towns, like I'll never forget, when you hear about a drug bust, like in New York City or something, or a big city, Chicago, whatever, and you see some footage on the news or something like that, and you know how they like to show, we busted so and so, and then they show you bales and bales of weed or bricks and bricks of cocaine or heroin and guns and cash, and you got that photo and the cops are standing there getting their pictures taken. What a great job. Well, in small town USA, they do the same shit, except they spread out maybe, a pellet gun, a couple of joints, but they're getting the same press. And the truth of the matter is in the news, it looks like they've made this big bust. And a lot of it is the media. We've talked about this during the election, and not to get off topic,
yes,
but the media is at fault for a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of stuff. And they've brainwashed a lot of young people today. I'm amazed at some of the, and we all go through it as you age, but I'm amazed at some of the thought process behind some of the youth today and what they feel this country should be doing and how it should be run. And it's just so delusional. And although I believe that everyone has their own right and opinion and everything else, I think that, they have to look into it a little deeper before they do some crazy things that's taken place. And another thing, bullying, not totally off topic, online bullying, where someone's bullying someone else, children, kids, and then these kids are so distraught by it that they commit suicide. I say to myself, how weak have we become mentally as a society that would push somebody, to do something that drastic? When, basically the rules my parents said was, hey, sticks and stones can break your bones, but names will never hurt you. Yeah, I mean, talk about being bullied. I used to have to stick up for kids that used to literally get bullied, beat up on their way to school.
Got bullied and beat up on the damn ground.
There was always
the whole damn thing.
I know. There's always a big kid. No, there's always was a big kid shaking you down for your lunch money, or I mean, luckily I never really had to go through that, but I witnessed it myself, and I just don't get it. Now today, the kids don't even walk to school anymore. Mom and dad drive them in the minivan, and it's we used to be told. Well, when I was a kid, Sal, I'm sure your parents said the same thing. Hey, Salvatore, because when they called you by your full name, you were in trouble. Hey, Salvatore, we don't want to see you till it gets dark. Go play out in the street, and now it's like, oh my God, don't you leave that house? Don't you leave that house, Johnny? And then we wonder, oh, our kids are so unhealthy. They're so fat. All they do is play video games. Yeah, well, because you're not letting them out of the house. I mean, it's crazy, man.
Well, it is. And you know what? One of my favorite sayings, as I've always said, especially during election, was the media no longer reports the news. They create and they stimulate it, and they sensationalize it, and they do other things to stimulate the news flow and the direction of where they want a story to go. That's why a lot of them are licking their wounds and rebooting their own psyche after the Trump massive victory against what they thought was going to be the result of Hillary having a step in the White House. But neither here or there. I do believe in our legal system. I do believe in our policemen. For the majority, they do the job they can do out there the best of their ability and what they're doing. Because literally, no pun intended, a lot of our police officers today are handcuffed on a lot of levels. They have to write reports about even looking at a car making a wrong turn. I mean, it's really becoming a whole thing that they have to do, a litany of exercise and reporting and everything else, because we're in a litigious society. People are going to get sued, people are going to do this, and so they got to look after it. But you know what, I've always respected and I've always loved police officers, and I still do. And if there are not the ones out there that aren't on the up, well, you know what, I think the majority as a whole, they do a great job, and I love our police officers. And I think, like I said, if they're bad ones out there, they'll get weeded out. But on the whole, I love the police officers. And crime is up, and I'm sorry to say that we are living in a chaotic society now. And I don't know what we have to do to reestablish some orderly fashion of what life should be about.
Well, one of us loves the cops and one of us doesn't. Anyway, he goes on to say, Billy, I read that if Sergey Lipinov wins on Saturday, he's probably going to be in a run for a title shot, who happens to be Indongo, who just won this past week. And he says, do you see Lipinov as deserving for a title shot? He hasn't really beaten anybody, and beating Leo Zapavinga is good, but still he must show 2 wins against top guys. I wish all fighters had to fight real fights, Jesse. I mean, the sport today, all they got to do is win. I mean, all you got to do is look at Andy Ruiz getting a shot this weekend, in a elimination fight for a title. This guy has fought 0. I mean, Deontay Wilder looks like he's fought the toughest guys on the planet compared to Andy Ruiz Jr. So, it's why I myself and many others have lost interest in the sport of boxing, because fighters don't fight, promoters don't promote, managers don't manage. Everybody's talking about safety first. It's such fucking bullshit. It's crazy. Or somebody was telling me the other day when we were talking about this, and so he said, well, all sports have changed, Bill. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's true, but I mean, if everybody's that worried about it, they should outlaw it then. If it's that much, since when, even talk about laws, Sal,
Yes.
and I understand, but check this out. We live in a country, supposedly, the land of the free, right? We're supposed to be able to do pretty much most anything without, harming anyone else or stealing or whatever. We're pretty much supposed to be able to do what we want, right? Make our own decisions in life. You want to be a bum, you want to quit school, whatever. You do that, whatever. You want to follow through and get a good education and build a foundation and accomplish things in your life. You can do that. You have the opportunities here, no matter what your beliefs are or skin color is or financial background is. You have the means to make whatever you want out of yourself. That's the beauty of this country. However, when did we fall into such laws like, and I'm going to use this as an example, seatbelts, all right? Now, I know that a seatbelt, based on statistics and studies that they've had, puts a person in the car in a safer position by wearing a seatbelt in the event of an accident. But since when did our government slowly, all of a sudden, make it illegal for us to make our own decision whether we want or don't want to wear a seatbelt? And it's the same stuff that goes on. I mean, here we are. If I don't want to wear a seatbelt, if I want to take a chance and get into an accident and go through the windshield, that should be my choice. It's not a smart choice, but that should be my choice. But instead, it's a law. It's a law in this state that your headlights have to be on when your wipers go on. Okay, I could see that being all right, because that is a law that could, be safer for someone other than myself. But when I'm in my car and I want to take a chance and I don't feel like wearing a seatbelt, I should have the right to do that without the risk of getting a ticket, which is a moving violation for that matter. So, just little things like that. Our privileges are slowly being taken away, and if a lot of young people with their beliefs, they're all for it, and I don't understand it.
Well, Bill, I'll tell you, I understand your point there, and it's so true. I mean, I shouldn't say this, but sometimes you could find me driving without a seatbelt on.
Well,
But,
in that
you know,
car, you get into an accident. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a seatbelt or
well, that's
anything.
my thought. And you know what? My thought is this: when I'm in my little sports car, I want to get thrown as far the hell out of the car as possible if I can, because I don't want to be inside when it's going to get squished.
No, I hear
But
you.
neither here or there, or neither rationale. It's amazing. We have this law in effect, as you said, with the seatbelts. But here, look at all that is going on inside that vehicle. I mean, it's chaos. You look at you have a parent with children. They could be screaming, playing with games, throwing things. You're on a cell phone. You're getting text messages. You shouldn't be texting. You shouldn't be doing this. You're listening to that. You got music. You don't hear the horns beeping. You don't hear. It's crazy. Or maybe somebody might be putting on makeup. I'm not going to say male or female, but somebody's going to be putting on mascara. It's a crazy world out there.
It is.
If you ever notice when you're driving, and that's another thing, you look at other drivers, you're not looking ahead of the car of where you should be going. But it's a chaotic nightmare out there.
Yeah,
When
let me
you're
tell you.
in a car zone, and people are during rush hour scrambling for jockeying for position to see what the heck they're rushing to. Half of them rushing to nowhere. That's how their trained mentality mindset is.
Hey, leave the Russians out of this. Hey, listen,
Hey,
let me tell you.
Some boxing or what?
It's funny. You mentioned when I commuted to the city for like 8 years, right? And in the beginning of my career, before I started doing all my own businesses and stuff, and I'll never forget, commuting where you're driving an hour and a half each way every day, and all the other people on the road are doing the same thing. I used to see women putting makeup on all the time, but let me tell you, the best thing I saw, now this is going back a while, all right? The best thing I saw, I'm driving down, and I'll tell everybody, I was heading south on the Deconic State Parkway. It was bumper to bumper traffic. That's the way it was,
well.
right? And I look over at the guy as I'm passing him on my left, and there's this fucking guy, all right, driving. He's got a coffee in one hand, and he's reading the newspaper on the other, and he's driving the car, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh my God, I gotta get away from this guy." I mean, and they're worried about people friggin' texting and driving and talking on the cell phone. And by the way, every time I pass a friggin' cop, they're on their cell phone. So I don't even want to hear that shit about cell phones and stuff like that. Texting, yeah, but cell phone, I mean, come on, But then again, drivers aren't as good today. A lot of young drivers just get in it and step on the gas. They don't even know what's going on, and yeah, they shouldn't be distracted. But crazy
we are
stuff.
in Georgia. Do you get your driver's permit at the age of 15, and you get your license at 16? And I told my kids, I said, guys, when you're younger, I told them, I said, we're going to pretend we're in Jersey. You're not getting a permit till you're 16 and a half, and you're not going to get your license till you're 17. And sure enough, I got my son Sal. He's 17. He's going for his license now. The last thing I need is a 15-year-old on the road, and who was just driving his big wheel bicycle last week.
Exactly. The funny thing is, mentally, and listen, I didn't feel this way when I was.
But you can accelerate it to a 65-mile-an-hour lane at 15. Forget about it.
But when I was 16. I felt I was ready to drive, and I get it when you're 16 and you want to be out there. But looking back at it now in retrospect, even when I was in my mid-20s, I realized that mentally, I don't think a 16-year-old is mature enough to drive behind the wheel of a car, especially when things can be so dangerous. So I don't know, but
dangerous, and you look at also that's coming through some of these kids growing up today. I mean, these are the same ones that are getting counseling and pet and bereavement dogs in college because of the election results. I mean, come on, how soft is our society becoming?
Dude, I told you the other day.
Are you kidding me?
I told you the other day.
These kids on the freaking road. What is going to happen?
I know. Like somebody cuts them off and they have to pull over.
They're gonna clam up and pull over
Yeah,
or freak out.
Oh,
or lose control.
I told you the other day. I saw this couple walk in and they claimed in a restaurant, and they claimed that they had a therapy dog, and it was a little like Dotson wearing a Santa Claus hat, and I'm like, that's a therapy dog, my ass. That's a friggin' pet, But anyway, let me finish this email. Jesse says, some of my picks for Saturday: Ivan Barancek in a unanimous decision against Lopez. Beltran TKO in the 10th round versus Mason Menard. Lipinov stopping Leo in 8. Luis Concepcion knocking out Yafari in 7. And Horn split decision over Fanica. And White knocks out Chisora in 8. He says, do you like the Cubs trading Soler for Wade Davis? Davis should solidify the closer position. Soler looks very promising with excellent talent. They did have to tighten up their closing position, but they are the World Series champions, so you can't criticize anything they do. I think the Cubs organization is top-notch, and Theo Epstein will definitely get in the Hall of Fame. He was successful in Boston and, of course, successful in Chicago with the Cubbies. The Cubbies are going to be a dominating team for a long time. Next email. The subject here is Evander Holyfield, the real deal. And this is from my man Rick. He says, hey, Billy C. and Sal, much respect to Holyfield, the premier fighter of the 1990s, which was a great era in heavyweight boxing history. Truth is, I usually rooted against Holyfield, but I always appreciated him for his exciting fights and display of heart and courage. Before I go on, I'm with Rick. I did too, man. I got to admit, I was never a big Evander Holyfield fan. I never rooted for him. But I agree exactly what Rick is saying. I definitely appreciated his courage and heart and determination, and like we talked about yesterday, his recuperative powers. He says, Holyfield was the glue that held the division together throughout the 90s. I agree with that. He says there was a lot of big names during that time: Mike Tyson, George Foreman, Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, Mora, Ray Mercer. He says, for the most part, those guys never faced each other with a few exceptions, but they all faced Holyfield, and many of them multiple times. My only knock on Holyfield is that he was connected to the Balco doping scandal, and he definitely looked juiced up after coming back in 95. But as the great Mike Tyson once said, well, fuck it. It's a fight. Whatever happens, happens. Who had better? The only guy that had better comments than Mike Tyson was Yogi Berra. But, hey, I agree with this email 100%. What about you?
Yeah, I sure do. And like I said, Holyfield, if you knew him, he wasn't Mr. Personality. He was kind of you might not appreciate him for his personality, but his fighting ability and talents and what he brought to the ring as far as a career and as far as what he was attribute to boxing. Yes, I'm right on the same page. That's why he's a first round Hall of Famer, and that's why he will always be praised as a great warrior, because that's what he did. That's what he was.
Here's our last email. This is from Angel from Madison, Wisconsin. He says, "Hola, Señor C." He says, when Roger Goodell became the NFL commissioner, he wanted to extend the regular season an extra couple of games and add more teams to the playoffs, but the Players Association objected. After that proposal was rejected, there's now talk of adding or expanding the playoffs by adding extra buys for the top teams to make room for a wild card expansion. I personally like the current format of 16 regular season games and 16 playoff format. Having 8 teams in a new playoff, I think, takes away from the regular season and the importance of winning your division. I think that the added playoff will likely happen as a way to make up for the players objecting to an 18-game regular season and to add more revenue and cash in on the extra playoff ratings. In your opinion, and Sal's, how do you guys feel about an 18-game regular season, yes or no, and an extra playoff team from 6 to 8? Well, first of all, when Goodell was saying that, the issue was about the preseason, and they were considering changing the preseason to only being 2 games, and one of the reasons for that was a lot of injuries occurred during preseason games to stars that end up even missing an entire season or a majority of the season. That was where the problem was. The owners like the preseason because it doesn't matter whether they win or lose, and they're getting that revenue stream from TV deals, from ticket sales, souvenirs, etc. So, I mean, me for one, I wouldn't mind doing away with 2 of the preseason games and making them count as regular season games. As far as the extended playoff, the thing about that makes some sense is, when do we draw the line? I think the problem is when you look at a weak division and you see a team that gets in at 8-8 or 9-6, and then you look at other divisions and you got teams at 10-6, double-digit wins, even 11-5, with the possibility of not making the playoffs because a divisional team won it with a slightly winning record or a 500 record or even a losing record. And I think that was why they wanted to expand the playoffs. But I agree with what Angel said. The most important thing is winning a division. If a division is weak and you can win it with an 8-8 record, hey, that's the way the chips fall for you. If they want to do with just the best teams like they do in other sports, then maybe the divisional titles should be dropped, or maybe we just drop the divisions, make it a conference versus conference. I don't know. But I, for one, would love to have them do away with 2 of the preseason games, make them count, make these teams win those games, make those games count. And as far as adding a couple more playoff teams, I think that's just trying to give the opportunity to a 10-6 team or an 11-5 team that potentially won't make the playoffs because of a weak divisional winner that has to make the playoffs. What do you think?
I think we should do away with some trophies and turn them into belts, and I think we should get some more organizations involved, putting up a bid for, noticing in their own world champions, and really screw up the game.
Well,
that's another sport.
What's going to happen now is in boxing they're going to give participation belts. So as long as you just participate in the fight, whether you win or lose, you're going to get a belt. Like they do in
soccer field at 5 years old.
Yeah, like they do in t-ball.
Everyone gets a little ribbon.
Everyone gets a trophy. Like I love that
Everyone
commercial.
Wins.
I love that commercial when the father with the kid, he gets participation trophy, and the father's going, "We won every game." Right, and then he takes the thing, he rips it off, and he writes with a marker, "Champions." He goes, "Here's your new trophy," which is true. I hate that. That goes by what that goes by what we're saying about the society. We've become so weak. You don't want to say that one team won or lost because that might offend a little Johnny who's out there picking daisies in right field. Little Johnny shouldn't play. If little Johnny can't pay attention, whether he's 5 years old or 15 years old, don't put him on the field. There's other things. Maybe little Johnny wants to be little Joanne. I don't know. But the truth of the matter...
Don't even go
there. Hey, you know what? Let me just say this. I totally have no problem with the LGBT, XYZ movement. No problem at all. What I do have a problem with is parents that make a decision for a 6 or an 8-year-old to have a gender change situation when a kid is they don't even know.
He doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Just because a boy is playing with Barbie dolls does not mean that he was born the wrong gender. Come on.
Hey, I used to play with Barbie dolls when I put them on my G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe used to. Hey, listen. Thank God I had sisters.
Hey, let's make a family.
Hey, let me tell you something. Thank God I had sisters. My G.I. Joes never were without a few Barbies. My G.I. Joes used to walk down the street with a couple of Barbies on each arm. So come on, man.
Yeah. And forget about Ken. We beat up Ken every day.
Ken was a win.
You put a G.I. Joe against a Ken doll. It was not pretty.
Let me tell you something. There wasn't a Barbie I ever met that didn't pick G.I. Joe over Ken. Give me a break. And when they came out with lifelike hair and kung fu grip, forget about it. G.I. Joe was the man, Oh, God.
Well, it's funny.
That's funny.
I guess we're raised in the same generation.
Of course we were. Hey, listen, the first G.I. Joe I had was all hard plex. You could kill somebody with it.
It was like a freaking rock.
When my brothers,
my brother and I banged each other over the head with it when we got mad at each other.
oh yeah, I mean, well, you know what? Do they even sell? Remember all the weapons you had? You had the machine guns and grenades and all that stuff.
The first time they had real fuzzy hair and they made a beard. You know what I did with my G.I. Joe? I got my father's straight edge razor and I shaved the beard off. He looked like he got bad acne, pockmarks all over his damn face. I shaved the beard off.
That was G.I. Joe with lifelike hair, then G.I. Joe with lifelike beard, then G.I. Joe with kung fu grip. I mean, oh God, funny stuff. They had a commercial about that once recently, but anyway. My man Angel says, lastly, I was wondering if you could answer this question. Fantasy football uses players' likeness for one to gamble or play with. Why do pro players not object to their use of name and likeness in the gamble game format? There's a lot of money being made without their consent. Can a pro athlete object to a fantasy game company to not use their name and likeness? Should these fantasy companies compensate athletes for their names and likenesses? That's a great question. And, the truth of the matter is I'm not really sure how they get around that, because I know that, like, for example, football cards, Topps, would have to pay a player to put their pictures on their cards, and the player would get compensated for that. So I would think that that they would be compensated in some way, shape, or form. I mean, let's be real. My daughter wanted a coffee mug with the Jets on it. She's, unfortunately, I forced all my kids to be Jets fans, and I feel terrible about that. But you go in, you get a regular.
A giant household. It was very, very good.
You go in, you get a regular travel coffee mug for $8, $9. You go to, and the only place you can get a Jet one, an official Jet one, is NFLshop.com. And it's $45 for the fucking thing. So obviously the money, the licensing deals that the NFL works out, where the players get a kickback or the teams get a kickback. I don't know how it works, but they're getting something. And it's a great question, and I honestly don't know the answer to that, Manny. So, Angel. But it's a good point, great point. That Angel makes. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Very good point.
Are you talking pizza again in the chat room?
No, I'm watching these guys though. They're talking about a lot of things. There's some stuff going around in this chat room. I can't pay too much attention to it because then I'll get off track of what we're discussing.
I know, and then you'll just come up with a canned answer like, I agree with everything you just said, whatever that may have been.
90% of it at least.
Yeah. Anyway, we do have some good fights this weekend. Anthony Joshua against Eric Molina. How do you think that's going to go?
I think Joshua is going to go out there. He's not going to take Molina lightly, and or his weight. I think he's going to go out there and establish his strong jab from the get-go. He's going to figure him out. Molina's going to try to do the same. But I see Joshua hitting him from the outside, and I think Joshua's going to stop him by the 8th round.
Eric Molina, of his 25 wins, he has 19 knockouts. In his last fight, he knocked out Tomas Adamek, knocked him out. It wasn't a TKO; it was a knockout. And although Adamek is really a blown up light heavyweight, he had a granite chin. I mean, he had been in there with a lot of fighters and did not get stopped. And not only did he get stopped, he got knocked out against Eric Molina back in April. So he does have some pop. And one of the weaknesses.
Oh, he does have pop. Yeah,
one of the
dangerous.
One of the weaknesses for Anthony Joshua is his chin. He's hit the canvas a couple of times already. So it will be interesting to see. And Eric Molina was virtually a non-entity until he fought Deontay Wilder and gave Deontay Wilder a lot of trouble before being stopped in the 9th round back in June of last year. And I think since then, even though he fought a real layup fight after the Wilder fight and then, of course, the Tomas Adamek fight, you can see it. He's in better shape than he was. Right now, he's in better shape than he was. And you can see some confidence coming out of him. He almost believes that he's gotten better, and I think he has. He's currently ranked number 9 by the WBC and number 8 by the IBF. The WBA and WBO do not have him ranked. As of now, we have him ranked at number 24 in our rankings, and the computer has him ranked at number 12. So I don't know how he gets these rankings, with the exception of his win over Adamak. There's no other big name on his resume. So it's going to be interesting to see how Anthony Joshua handles it. And you know what? While we're speaking of Anthony Joshua, he's got some big names on his record. He won the title from Charles Martin, who kind of got there in an easy way, but nonetheless, he was the champion when Anthony Joshua destroyed him in 2. Dominic Brazil was
a fight we saw.
Big fight, 7th round stoppage over Brazil, and Brazil, tough guy. I didn't think he was going to beat Joshua, but he definitely hung around. He was undefeated going into that fight. He also beat Dillian White, an undefeated Gary Cornish, Kevin Johnson, who I thought was kind of a fraud fighter. He said he was the best fighter since Muhammad Ali. I never really respected him after that, but he was the first person to knock out Kevin Johnson. Anthony Joshua stopped him in 2. He also beat, the collection of sacrificial lambs and journeymen. But one name that is on there is Denis Bakatov, who's I think his first major win. He also beat Matt Skelton in London, in Merseyside in Liverpool. And Matt Skelton was a tough guy back in 2014. So I think that his rise to the top has been perfect. I mean, they've increased his level of opposition as he went along, and I think it's going to pay dividends as he moves on in his career. I don't see him having much trouble with Eric Molina, as I'm picking Anthony Joshua to win this fight, Sal, and win it via a knockout. So
yeah, me too.
Anyway,
me too. I don't think it's going to go past 8 rounds. And coach in the chat room made a good statement, and I could see this going real well. He said Molina is going to go out on a body shot, and I could see Joshua, because Joshua does a good effective body job, and he can hit him with some good shots, and we'll see. So I think Joshua's going to come up the victor, and I don't think the fight's going to go the distance.
In the other heavyweight fight, which I really think is a joke that Andy Ruiz is even getting a shot at this eliminator, but nonetheless, he is. Andy Ruiz against Joseph Parker. Andy Ruiz, when you look at his record, he's 27 years old. I will give him credit. He did lose some weight when he first started. He was a big fat pig. Now he's just a fat pig. When you look at his resume, there's really no one on there. I mean, he does have a couple of names like Sergey Lipinov and Ray Austin. They were names in the division, but these are guys that he fought when they were 100 years old. Aside from that, no notable wins for this guy, and I think it's a travesty that he's even in a position, let alone being ranked the way these sanctioning bodies are, and then fans actually thinking that he deserves it. Now, he fights Joseph Parker, who's an up-and-coming fighter. I mean, this guy's only got 1 loss. He's undefeated, 21 wins with 18 coming by knockout. And his last fight was a win over Alexander Dimitrenko, stopped him in 3. And he also beat Carlos Takim, who's a big name in the sport. He also got a win over Cali Meehan. So, I mean, this is a guy that has been, and Bowie Tutupu, he beat, even though Tutupu was, definitely out. He also beat some journeyman type fighters that are tough, like Brian Minto and Sherman Tank Williams, to name a couple. Francis Botha, he beat. He also Daniel Martz, Jason Bergman. These are all tough journeyman fighters. I don't see Andy Ruiz having a chance against Joseph Parker. What do you think?
No, I definitely don't. I agree with you, and I wasn't paying attention in chat room. I agree with you solely and 100%. I like Joe Parker. He's a good, level-headed, really good fighter, and I think he's got some good power. And and that's the same thing with Molina. Molina does have power, and he could catch, and that's the facet and the variable of what makes boxing great. like I said, any given night something can happen. And but I think Joe Parker should be able to be dominant in this fight and continue his pathway to glory. I think he's a good fighter.
Couple other fights.
Power.
Couple other fights I just want to touch base on. Terrence Crawford against John Molina. Terrence Crawford. We were talking
Are they
about,
related, Molinas?
no.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Terrence Crawford, this is being billed kind of as a showcase fight. It is in his hometown again. It's on HBO. And a lot of people are looking for Terrence Crawford to blow out John Molina. But here's the thing. John Molina's a tough guy. And he's a big guy. They are fighting at junior welterweight. And when you guys, if you've never seen John Molina fight, when you see him in the ring, you're going to be, oh my God, how did he make 140 for this fight? The thing is except for his last fight, John Molina was kind of a plodding, slow fighter that took a lot of punishment and then came on strong at the end. In his last fight, he did show some boxing ability, which I think landed him this fight. At the end of the day, I think that Terrence Crawford will break him down. But I do think that John Molina, I don't know what his game plan is, but I do think that if I were him, I would try to jump on Terrence Crawford early in this fight because Terrence Crawford has a tendency to start off a little slow. And John Molina's got some pop. I think it's his only chance because the longer this fight goes, Terrence Crawford will get in a groove and pick John Molina apart. Officially, I'm picking Terrence Crawford in this fight. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think so. I think Crawford, he's an accomplished fighter. He's well-rounded, and I think he will try to approach it from the outside and see what he can land and break him down methodically. And I think ultimately Terrence Crawford will beat Molina.
A couple other fights, and then we'll wrap it up here. I know we didn't get a chance to open up the phone lines, but that's because we were having so much fun with the user interaction with our emails. But Jesus Cuellar against Abner Mares. This is a interesting fight. Cuellar, I don't think gets the recognition that he deserves, and he's a quality fighter. But I've always been a big Abner Mares fan, and I think Abner Mares has a lot of pressure on him, and I think he's got a lot to prove. I think the fact that both fighters are coming off a long layoff, I think this fight may be not as action-packed as I would like. But at the end of the day, I'm going with Abner Mares on this. I know he's the underdog, and I know he's the B-side, so to speak. But I'm going with Abner Mares in this fight. What do you think? Did you get a chance to even look at this fight?
No, I haven't really looked at that fight too much. But from what I can hear and see on the reports, I tend to think that Abner Mares will become victor.
Mason Menard, he kind of busted out onto the scene recently and had a huge knockout and then followed it with another one. He was a guy that I tried to get on some fight cards, and his management / promoter at the time didn't want him to be known. Was on the Louisiana circuit for a long time fighting nobodies. And his last couple of fights have been pretty impressive, and it seems that he's as good as advertised. I think that the fight with Ray Beltran this weekend is going to be a huge gauge for how good Mason Menard really is. As far as that fight goes, I think that it's going to be a tough one. Ray Beltran has been around a long time, and he knows how to fight these guys. I just think Mason Menard relies too much on punching power. I don't know. I think it's a toss-up fight. I haven't made my official pick. Did you get a chance to look at this one?
No, but I've been looking at just reading some things about it, and I think it's going to be a good fight, and I think it's a good test, and I think you got a veteran in there with some good experience, and he does know how to fight a different style. So we'll see what this fight turns into.
Also, a fight that I haven't made an official pick on yet is
come on, pick it.
The junior middleweight title. Julian J. Rock Williams going up against Jamal Charlo. Now, Jamal Charlo, both Charlo brothers, I think, are a little bit overrated.
I think so too.
But J. Rock hasn't really proved anything to me, so I'm on the fence with this fight. What about you?
I'm going to go with a Charlo brother.
You're going to go with the Charlo brother? Gucci, like that, Charlo? Oh no, that was Chato. Oh, I'm sorry.
Chato. Yeah, I think so. We'll see. I'm gonna pick him. I'm just pulling that out of the hat.
There you go. Well, hey, that's good. I'm glad you did that. But Anyway, we'll have a lot.
Don't let me think about it too much. I'll
No, I
waffle and
won't.
go back the other way.
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is fighting this weekend.
No, he's go ahead.
We got Sergey
getting serious this
Lipinov
time.
against Lenny Zapavinga. I mean, we got some tough fights this weekend, but I just want to tell everybody the Billy C Challenge is up and running. The website's been updated. I want to congratulate our buddy Joel. He won the month of November. He got a Title Bout Championship computer game sent to him, so hopefully he'll download that and play that and help him with his picks. So congratulations to Joel for winning November. We're on our last month here. We will crown a winner for December, and we will crown a winner for the year. So the updated stats are up on the website. I do want to say this, the Billy C Challenge is one of these things that may not be continued after 2016. We are going to be doing some changes here with the show as the new year approaches, format changes, some other things that we do that we may not do anymore. So do me a favor, we're asking for your input. What kind of changes, modifications, or it ain't broke, don't fix it things should we do in your opinion? Just take a few moments and drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. And next week we will announce our holiday special, our holiday schedule as we approach Christmas and New Year's. And boxing slows down. Next week we got the B-Hop fight, and then after that, with the exception of some big fights in Japan and stuff, it's pretty quiet until after the New Year. So we will give you our holiday schedule on Monday. I will know what it is on Monday as we gear up for 2017. And when we come back for 2017, we're going to unveil the new format. So we're still open to suggestions. So take the time and drop us an email. Sal, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up today?
No, I know we're going to have a lot of call-ins today. I think Max Williams was looking to call in today, and we'll get him next week if we can to call in. And I think I just want to see a good fight Saturday night. And as I say, I'm very excited about Anthony Joshua. And I think he's a good credit to the heavyweight division and boxing in overall. And I think it's going to be a great show by him.
We got a lot of good fights this weekend, both on Showtime, HBO. Also, beIN Sports has the Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight. So there's a lot of fights. So you guys got to get. You'll be busy watching these fights, and we'll be here talking about them on Monday morning. And one thing I am going to let the cat out of the bag right now. We will be doing more post-fight shows in 2017. As a matter of fact, It's going to become a regular part of our programming. We will be doing post-fights pretty much after every fight that is on the cable networks and, of course, pay-per-view. So that is something that I will let the cat out of the bag. And with that said, Bernard Hopkins, Joe Smith Jr. fight next week, we will be doing a post-fight. I was trying to coordinate a post-fight this weekend for all the fights. I was going to try to do where we could come on and do a post-fight wrap-up for all these fights, but they're so staggered with the times. Plus, a couple of them are going to overlap. So, I got to take the DVR technology into play so I can watch one live and go back and watch the other one when it's over. So I didn't want to go live with something I didn't have the answers for. So, but anyway, that's what we got going. And we will be back Monday. So I want everybody to enjoy all the fights this weekend. Make sure you tune it in right here on Monday morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.